It's actually why I actually prefer biased journalism. I actually not prefer it over what would truly be unbiased
Requires
journalism.
you to be critical of everything.
But there is no unbiased journalism. It does not exist at all. So I prefer listening to Fox News or NPR, somewhere, a thing that you actually know is biased one way or the other, so you can at least then judge off the known bias that you know you're going off of. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is that but they're not conservative. They are like a populist progressive form.
They're fake conservative.
Yeah, they are. They have this like they're nationalist, they're populist, they're progressive, they're light right wing, if you want, if you want to call it that. But they're not conservative. And they're certainly not for liberty.
That's the sort of false dilemma that gets set up, is that sort of that's conservative. Let's knock that down. See,
right. And same with if you're listening, if you're watching MSNBC, this idea that they're liberal. No, they're not really liberal. They're actually big time. They're socialists. Really, they're populist socialist progressives is what they are, and they're big government fanatics.
Just don't mention CNN. Adam's gonna.
I won't say anything about CNN. I don't like when we're saying this. I know. The running joke here in the studio is Adam always has CNN playing when we come in, and Ed can't stand it. I'm not a CNN fan either, but I actually don't put CNN anywhere near as bad as I put MSNBC. MSNBC to me is laughable. Where CNN, I feel like some of the people on there are like the true, like, no, I'm a journalist. I went to school for this. I feel like they're not. They're biased, but they're not biased ideologues. They're biased journalists, which isn't much better, but it might be a little.
What about Fox News? Fox News isn't that?
Dude, I just spent 5 minutes ripping on Fox News.
I know, but Fox News is the other side of.
That's what I lumped Fox News and MSNBC there. So I'm actually in some ways saying Fox News is worse than CNN. I'm using Fox News as the example.
So you're saying CNN is the best then?
No. I don't care. Sure.
There's like, it might even be 5 now, but there's like 6 companies total that own like 99% of all the media. It's all controlled.
Right.
That's why it roughly tends to be all the same, and it's essentially the same thing almost on each side. You're going to have some catering to light conservatism on Fox News, and you're going to have catering to all the socialist, liberal, whatever on the other side. But a lot of times it's the same thing slanted, and neither of it gives you the truth.
Sure. And so much of the media, such a huge majority of the media is so leftist that when people who feel that they lean right tune into Fox News, and it is not completely bashing the right-wing segment, they view it as right-wing. But truthfully, I don't know that it really is. Honestly, to me, Fox News, MSNBC, and CNN have a lot more in common. Their ideologies have a lot more in common with each other than they do with my specific ideology. They could all be saying the same thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
As somebody who is I'm a liberty-loving federalist, basically. That is how I would probably describe my ideology. I'm not represented on any of those channels.
Case in point, how many things has WikiLeaks released in the last year or so that haven't even scratched the surface of any of these news channels? And say this scenario does happen. Say, there is some alien invasion, and maybe it's not even faked and it's real. Are you going to trust these sources that have continuously lied to you to all of a sudden tell you the truth about that?
And that's why it's so difficult. It really is. We've digressed a little bit from it, but I kind of like the digression.
You think?
Jump in wherever you'd like.
Who are you going to tune into when the invasion happens?
I think the whole thing is in large part bullshit.
What, the media part or the all Project Bluebeam?
I think people don't want to take responsibility for their own thinking. And I
agree with that.
And I think
the media doesn't want you to either.
And I think in some ways people hearken back to the media in that. They're like,
they do.
And they try to blame the media for that. They try to blame the media, I think, for their.
But if you're presented with a false dilemma, how are you supposed to come out with the truth?
I think the media gives you the reporting, and then from there, you make of it what you will. If you don't want to believe something, then don't believe it.
But do you agree that a lot of people in the media, on both sides of the aisle, that they present what they're saying as if it is unbiased journalism when it is in fact agenda laden?
I think in some what you're asking is do you think that there's bias in anything, whether it's the media, whether it's whatever? And yes, there are certain circumstances where there is bias in the media. I'm not denying that. I mean, the people that give us the news are people, and people are flawed.
All intelligent people have bias.
Yes.
Well, but they very clearly have agendas, though. These companies are essentially sensationalist, purposely so, in order to basically rally up their audience and sell advertisements and, disseminate whatever propaganda they want. They don't seem to have any sort of honest intentions on either side.
And that's why when I was saying earlier, when I talked about how I prefer to watch something that I know is biased, I personally would rather watch somebody such as, and I'll give an example from both sides, a Bill O'Reilly or a Rachel Maddow, someone who fully acknowledges their bias and will tell you that this isn't a news show, this is an opinion show. Unlike, for instance, a Chris Matthews or a Brian Williams, who
is Chris Matthews even on anymore?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I haven't watched much of this in a while. I know Bill O'Reilly's not on anymore, so that's an example right there that I'm dating myself with. But these, or even, to go way further back, a guy like Dan Rather, what he did for years. These guys pretended like they were journalists, like they were unbiased journalists, but they're not. They never were. This is where I have a problem with NPR. NPR pretends like they are just, our shows are entertainment. Our shows are just informative. Our shows are news. But if you're listening to NPR regularly, and you honestly believe that NPR isn't as far to the left as Bill O'Reilly is to the right, then you're not paying attention. You're not. And that doesn't mean, hey, listen to NPR. I don't care. It's fine. But if you're listening to NPR and you don't think that those people are just as far to the left as Rush Limbaugh is to the right, then you are doing yourself a disservice.
I feel like there's also this kind of false idea out there that a lot of people are very liberal, a lot of people are very conservative. Here's the sides as they're presented. Mm-hmm. But the truth is really somewhere in the middle, almost like it gives validity to both of those sides, that false dilemma.
To the two tribes that are trying to pull you into their side.
Exactly, and it just kind of pushes things along. It gives credence to something that really isn't true.
And I feel like, this, what I'm about to say may insult some people, and I don't mean it to be insulting, actually, I really don't, but I feel like a lot of people love to say that, I'm a moderate. I'm just a moderate. I'm just in the middle.
Exactly.
In the middle. And let me say, when I hear somebody say that, and this isn't true in every case.
Is it like the Michigan State thing? We're like, I kind of like both teams.
Yeah, it is in some ways. When I hear that somebody says, if you're, and we're here in Detroit, when I hear that somebody says that, I like both teams for Michigan State, to me, I read that as, you don't care, you're not a football fan, you haven't chosen one because you don't care. And that, to me, when I hear that someone says, I'm just a moderate, I'm just pretty much right in the middle,
haven't put much
I
thought
feel,
into
I feel
it.
like, yeah, you're not paying attention then.
What about if
You haven't formed an opinion. And that's okay.
That's why you got to
But-
respect Adam, because even though he's wrong, he picked a side.
No, he did. He did. It's like it's the Wolverine thing, you know. It's I mean, what? It's Wolverine and Storm in the first X-Men movie, you know. Like,
And just
what if you're
like-
fighting for the wrong side? At least I've chosen a side.
Yeah.
Is what Storm tells him when he's gonna go run away and hide. And that I feel like there's some validity to that.
And just like
what if you're on the wrong side? At least I've chosen a
I was
side.
gonna say, just like Ed, he's allowed fear to warp his mind, and he's also chosen a side. So
Perhaps, but okay.
I'm just kidding, Ed.
Project Bluebeam. All right, so is the idea
Before we go on,
Okay.
it seems to me like Project Bluebeam is like the mother of all conspiracy theories.
It's
To
I
me,
don't-
like this is what conspiracy
More so than the
theorists.
Gray
Because it's the
aliens?
end game. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that this is it seems like this is definitely the end game.
more
of
so
everything.
than the gray aliens controlling everything.
Well, because all paths lead to this. I mean, it really, for a lot of them to make sense, where is it all going? It has to lead
Yeah.
to this. It's like all paths lead to Rome. This is Rome right now.
See, we agreed on something.
no,
I agree.
I know. I'll definitely I'll save my applause for the end. But
Write that down. Write that down.
yeah, I will. Yeah,
We had one a couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, we
too.
did.
yeah, it's happened. Ed and Adam agreed because I do look back at these notes, so from the time. So I'm definitely going to make a paper copy of that at this point. But no, you guys are right though. This has to be the end game in essence. Even if you don't believe in the specifics of Project Bluebeam, you have to, if you are a believer in these conspiracies, you do have to believe that it eventually the end game is martial law leading to a one world government / pulling away of your rights, a dictatorship in essence, a worldwide dictatorship, and chaos first that will have to usher in said dictatorship. One thing I want to touch on though, because this is one I feel like even more so than Project Bluebeam, this is something that when you mention, people instantly think, oh, he's a crazy conspiracist. He's a crazy conspiracy theorist. And the thing I'm saying that people say that about is the entire idea of a false flag. Now, do we believe, do people out there believe that there has been false flag attacks, or that the government is capable or would be willing to do false flag attacks to further their own goals? And I don't think everything that's ever happened has been a false flag. And I'll get into this in a second, I think there's two different kinds of false flags that I feel like people get caught up in those two and end up fighting, and I don't think it matters that much. But what do you guys think? Is this do people out there believe that their government would never do that?
Well, isn't there a documented false flag where the United States was contemplating carrying out terrorist attacks and then blaming it on the Cubans? Isn't that something that's true?
Well, yeah, I mean that's Bay of Pigs.
yeah.
In essence, was that a lot of people, a lot of historians believe that the start of the Spanish-American War was a false flag. That either the U.S. perhaps purposely blew up their own ship, or that it blew up on accident and they chose to take that accident and say, this would be a great chance to blame the Spanish and go to that war we've been wanting to have.
Well,
That's what more historians tend to think. Not that all historians think. So there's still a whole bunch of historians out there that believe that the Spanish blew it up. To make that clear. But
look at events. I mean, and why you would want a false flag. I mean, I'm not saying necessarily that these are false flags, but when you have a large